What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Comixly Podcast, the official podcast of Comixly.com. My name is Joseph, and this is episode number 22. On the program today, Angela and I are talking about the manga My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, written and drawn by Nagata Kabi. This is something that we've both read before, something that we both read not much earlier, 4 or 5 years ago, when we were both at very different places in our lives, and sort of reading it right, now again, sort of how something that we start and I guess spend a lot of the initial part of the conversation on is, right, how does reading it now relate to when we read it previously, right? And sort of how does that affect the way that we interpret it now, right? Because this is not a light manga in any respect. So content warning here for talk about depression, about suicide, and about self-harm. So be careful, because those things do come up throughout the podcast, and I try to mention it before we talk about it during the episode also. And again, I should say that the name of the manga is My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, because we start the episode and then we don't say that for about 5 or 10 minutes. So just to be very clear what we're talking about when we get into the episode. This was something that, when we do this podcast, we try to be very thoughtful and considerate about sort of what we're saying and the implications of what we're saying, and right, trying to sort of analyze and do a critique of whatever sort of media that we're engaging with that week, and be thoughtful about our thoughts and reflections on it, right? And I say this in the episode, right? It's in the name, right? This is a book about a woman figuring out her gender identity and how she wants to express her sexuality. And so, just as a straight white man, right, I am someone who is still figuring out the correct and most respectful and thoughtful and ways to talk about this without being prescriptive, and being hopefully trying to be respectful of how people want to identify themselves in any way in their life, and not say anything, not just that would we don't want to offend anyone, I don't want to offend anyone, but just also we don't want to sort of make or spread or assume anything about groups of people. This is stuff that we're trying to I think figure out how to talk about in the best way, and so we try to do our best. I feel pretty comfortable with everything we said in this episode, but just and this isn't to preface for any mistakes or anything, but this is stuff that me and Angela are still very much, right, these aren't always easy things to talk about, and so we're trying to do that in a respectful and honest way, I think. So, and I hope that comes across in the podcast, in our conversation. I hope you find something that's thought-provoking or interesting, or that you can connect with it in here. And I really recommend that everyone go read this manga. I think it's really excellent. I know not an easy read by any means. That's something that Angela spends some time talking about. But I think for me, it's been really helpful at reading it at the different points in my life when I have just in the things that it's brought up for me. So yeah, again, not an easy read. Content warning for depression, for self-harm, for suicide. But if you're able, if you have access to it and this, you feel comfortable reading it, I really would recommend people do. I can hear my voice getting a little bit softer and as I talk about this stuff, but this was maybe fun is not the right word, but I think I enjoyed having this conversation with Angela. I really did, and I'm glad we talked about it. There's a couple of sequels. I don't know if we'll do those. That's something that we have to figure out. But I hope people enjoy listening to this episode, and you're going to hear my conversation with Angela about the manga My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness on the other side of this short break. Come on, it does not end sadly.
I need to monitor what things you're choosing for this podcast better.
Okay.
That's my lesson from today.
Next week is Itaewon class, so we're good.
Yeah, and I'm pumped.
Okay, and then I think the week after that is I think maybe Night in the Woods the week after that, but no, this week is good. It ends happily, mostly.
Does it though?
Well, do we want to start there?
It doesn't really end. I mean, it ended.
What do you mean it doesn't really end? And what do you mean by that? That's interesting.
she's still going through like some tough stuff, you know. There's
Yeah.
no like personal or emotional like epiphany or anything that's like, oh yes, things are gonna be good now. No, things just gonna, you know, be maybe like slightly better, but
But
maybe still not great.
okay, so I think that's kind of what I love about it, right? Because
Yeah, you like things with no endings or sad
well,
endings.
no, but there is no right. I think it reflects real life in that way, that there is no it doesn't get fixed, right? To be like very dark, and I don't want to be that dark, because like I enjoyed reading this and I really enjoyed it, right? But like the all of life is a process until it ends, right? But nothing is ever like totally figured out, right? Nothing is ever fixed, or you know, I guess I should speak for myself in the way that I understand it, or right in you know, in the 20 some odd years of what I've experienced, right? Things are not like fixed or complete or done, right? And it is this whole process, and then one day the process kind of ends.
And you die.
And you die, right? And the process ends. And I guess it's kind of like, what do you want from your media, right? So maybe you want your media to be a little bit more aspirational in saying that, in having, you know, a quote unquote happy ending, right? Is like, so let me ask you this, right? Let's say it has some sort of happy ending, right? Where she either finds some sort of long-term partner, she, you know, gets some, you know, has a sort of like steady full-time job, right? You know, you kind of pick what that looks like for you, I guess. But like, do you think that would undercut the rest of the book at all? Do you think that would undercut the rest of it in any way?
No, I think it would be like, hey, look, it gets better.
I hadn't thought about that, but I wonder if the message of this book, or if it would undercut for me if she kind of walked away just happily. Or I think specifically it would, right? Because one of the things I wrote down, and we'll, you know, I guess we should say at this point, I'll have said it in the intro, but it's always good to say it again here. Angela and I read a manga this week. We read the manga My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi, who both wrote and drew it. It's about 150-page manga that was published as a webcomic and then later got pretty popular and was republished as a whole collected manga novel about her experience in her early to late 20s, figuring out what she wanted to do with her life, what type of person she wanted to be, how she wanted to be in the world. And yeah, it's not particularly the most happy story in any sense, right? A lot of like she experiences a lot of like awful things, but like very real things, I think, things that at least I connected with, which we'll get to. But and then, you know, another good thing to say right here is content warning, talking about self-harm and depression throughout this episode. So content warning for those two things. All right, so I guess we kind of started at the end a little bit, so we're gonna have to jump back a little bit earlier, and let's talk about, so this is the second time you've read this, right?
Yes.
All right, this is the second time Anza's read this. I think this is the third time I read it. The first time I read it was as part of a book club. It's the first manga. I actually haven't read like any other manga other than this. I know I should like check out some other stuff because I really enjoyed this, but I read it as a part of a book club, really enjoyed it, and then bought it and was like, oh, I think I read it, I bought it, I read it again, and then I sent it to you. And I remember I was like, I'm going to send this home and I don't want mom to like open up the package and see the cover. So I think I wrapped it in like brown paper just so like it wasn't going to be taken.
Like a liquor bottle.
like some sort of illicit object. Because there's two naked women, not in a like lascivious or lewd way, but there's two naked women on the front, and I didn't want the parents to censor Angela's reading.
Yeah, well, now they're gonna know.
No. I have a funny story about that. I'll tell you afterwards. Okay. Yeah, so I read it because I think it really it connected, right? I think she writes very honestly about a lot of things and gives words, or like puts words to a lot of feelings that I had in high school and in my first couple of years of college that I can't write like that. I can't express myself like that. I think she does it like very eloquently and sort of efficiently with her dialogue and with her art. And so I think I wrote to you, right? Because I wrote you a little note on that cover, and I think I said something. I don't feel like I still have that cover. I might have kept it, but I'm not sure. But I think I wrote to you about like this, like in here in this book is it expresses a lot of the things I felt living at home in Wisconsin, growing up with the parents that we did. And like, you know, I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I was like a really shitty older brother to Angela for a long time. And I feel really horribly about that. And so...
Remember that time you put water in my cereal and milk? And then
I don't remember that specifically, but I absolutely believe it.
I was so excited because it was chocolate milk Cheerios, and I never have chocolate. And then you put water, and I was like, ew, and then Dad made you drink it.
Oh, yeah. I was a
remember you getting
shitty older
spanked
brother.
a lot.
Yeah. I was a very shitty older brother for a very long time.
That's cool.
And yeah, no, like something I'm like sorry. You know, we've talked about it off the podcast, but like I'm very sorry that I was like that. And I didn't send you this book to try to like explain like this is why the way that was, but just at least like these are the things I was feeling at that time, right? That doesn't excuse the actions in any way, but these are a lot of the things I was feeling, right? This is also a book about a woman's figuring out that she's queer, that she's attracted to other women. So, you know, that's, you know, I'm like a straight white guy, so I don't have that lived experience, but I can empathize with what she's going through, and as far as how she's dealing with her family, how she's growing up, and how she's figuring out how to navigate the world, because she doesn't find that easy at all. So yeah, that was me coming to it and like introducing it to Angela. What did you think the first time you read it, Ange? Do you remember your reaction to it at all?
Well, here's my thing.
Okay.
And it kind of ties into like my reaction reading it again.
Okay.
In high school, I was much less happier than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it meant something more to me to read it then. But reading it now, it was just like, I'm not a super like emotionally open person. So
now,
it was
now you're saying now or then?
Now.
Now, okay.
Like my thing is more is like in like the past is the past. No need to like go like revisit that.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Mm-hmm. So like this wasn't the most fun thing for me to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you were reading it now, you were were you remembering how you felt about it reading then, or were you just taken back? Can you explain that a little bit more, if that's okay? Like,
yeah, it was like, it reminded me like of, I guess, how I felt back then. And it was just like, I don't really feel like I want to, you know? Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, that's why I said I gotta monitor what you pick better.
Well, thank you for reading and thank you for like engaging with it. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I almost was like, Joey, I'm not doing this.
Okay.
But I don't want to make you sad, but this is the only way I get to talk to you, so.
It's not the only way you get to talk to me. You can call me whenever.
Yeah, but it's not. Because then you're like, all right, I gotta go.
Well, sometimes I have to go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never going to hang up. I'm never just going to hang up on you, though. Okay. So it was a little bit of an intense experience for you just reading this over the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Like, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, I'll make sure we talk about it. She has a couple other books, you know, maybe we'll not go through those, or I'll read them first and you can decide. But okay. All right. Thanks, Ange. I appreciate that, Ange. What? I'm feeling very bad right now. I'm like, oh, I don't know if we should like go through with this, but
should we just skip right to Itaewon Class?
No, because I have to finish it. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm just trying to think because I don't want to.
What are your notes?
Well, so I guess a lot of my notes are sort of very similar, right? I'm sure it's like a lot of the stuff that I connected to the first time, right? So one thing I think this book does really well is it visualizes, right? The art in this book it's pretty like simple, right? There's it's all gray and pink and black and white, right? And the main character who I don't know if we ever get the main character's name, actually.
It's just the author.
I don't know if she ever actually has like a name, but it is the author. And she, through her art and through her dialogue, she captures a couple things really well. And one of the things she captures very well is the feeling of when you're young, right? And especially when you're like still living with your parents, right? Feeling like you have to live up to everyone else's expectations, right? And like specifically your parents, right? And like that is something that I didn't know how to really like verbalize, right? I know it's like something I felt, and I have, there's 4 people older than me, there's 5 people older than Angela, so like I think, is it fair to say, like, I mean, I guess I don't know, like, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to answer, like, did you, because you're a bit younger than me, right? And so I felt like there was always a lot of comparison to like Sarah and David, who are a couple of our older siblings. I don't know, did you ever feel like that pressure, or do you think like because they're like quite older than you, that was like that pressure was more removed?
I think it was more removed, especially because I feel like I don't know. I always like kind of characterize like each of like the siblings with like Dave's the smart one, Sarah's the fast one, John's the hippie, and like I feel like I and also mom and dad probably realized pretty early on, like, I wasn't about to, like, go to college on some running scholarship or some smart person scholarship. So I felt pretty comfortable just doing my own thing.
Okay. Nice. I mean,
but also because it's like, I didn't, like, grow up with you guys. But, like, I grew up with you, but, like, not with, like, the older kids. So it's like, I don't even know what I would be comparing myself to.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this book, the main character has a sister. She doesn't talk about her sister that much, right? And she only shows up in a few scenes, but it's constantly coming back to this feeling of being, like, how do you decide at which point, like, maybe you're not going to be the person that satisfies or is exactly what your parents want you to be, right? And there's no easy or good way to do that, right? And she sort of goes, especially in like the chapter 1 and chapter 2, right? She goes through kind of hell to figure that out, right? She has like severe depression. She can't get out of bed. She starts self-harming in a way, right? That's one of like the most vivid scenes in the book, right? I maybe you remember this, right? She talks about, she's like, has these massive swings between like binging and sort of starving herself. And when she's binging, like, she has to eat everything, right? And she like eats the dried ramen, and it makes her like mouth bleed, and that kind of is like satisfying to her almost, right? And that panel particularly, like, I don't think I'll ever forget that, right? I think I don't know if it's exactly red, but it's like this very bright pink, at least, that like is supposed to be blood on the panel, right? It's, I don't know, and I think that, it is one of like the darker and more difficult to look at panels, right? But I think it's one of the moments in this book that really captures the sort of symbiotic nature, right? The sort of way that the narration and the art sort of perfectly complement each other, which happens throughout the whole book, right? But I think it sort of is really encapsulated in some of the like more difficult or darker panels. That was one of the things that I like going back, right? I don't know, because that's something I'm still feeling, and I don't know if I'll ever get over. I don't know if it's so much with like my mom and my dad anymore, but I think it's still definitely something that's present with my older siblings. Something else that I was sort of picking up on, right? And this is just because like it's been maybe 4 or 5 years since I last read, maybe not 4 or 5, probably like 2 or 3 years since I last read this, right? Is like, so it's dealing with all of those emotions, right? It's also dealing with a person who is figuring out how she wants to express her gender, a person who's figuring out how she wants to express her sexuality, and I think that I know, like, that stuff, I read it, and I'm sure I thought it was, or I read it and I thought it was interesting, but I don't think I really probably thought, I imagine I didn't really think about it a lot, but like coming to it now, right, that is something that I spent a lot more time thinking about. And one thing she says, and sort of reading this in the light of this last year, especially since this last summer, and some of the things that we've talked about on this podcast before, there's the line in the book that maybe stood out to me the most this time is, and I want to find it because I want to make sure I get it right. The thing that maybe stood out to me more this time, right, just because of my job, the types of conversations we've been having, there are things I have to be aware of, sort of working with high school students, is how to talk about gender, how to talk about sexuality with kids who are sort of figuring that, with people who are figuring that out, maybe for the first time in their life, and really trying to like put words to it. And right, as someone who like, I'm trying to figure out how I talk and how I think about it for myself, right? And so the thing that stood out to me was, I'm just going to read these couple panels, right? The character she talks a lot, she spends a lot of time in chapter 2 talking about how she wants to be touched, right? She wants someone to like look at her and see her for who she is, because she has a job as a bear mascot out in front of a business. And so sometimes people hug her, but they're not hugging her, they're hugging the bear. And she's talking about how that feels very empty. And she wants someone to see her for who she is and look at her and be like, you, as the person that you are, you deserve a hug. And so she writes, by the way, when it comes to free hugs, gender doesn't matter to me. But for anything more than that, I'd only want to pursue it with a woman. And the reason behind that was that I didn't want to accept that I was a woman. It wasn't that I wanted to be a man. It was more like I hated belonging to a gender at all. I was excessively afraid of being defined as a woman before I was seen as myself. And that kind of hit me because I think it perfectly, I think it really encapsulates something about both gender, but also something about, I think that also applies to like race, right, or skin color, right, as well, right? Like, you know, as a white person, I've been thinking a lot about like what sort of privilege comes with like that skin color, and like you see people on the news, right? They're talking about like cultural appropriation or like white privilege or white guilt, and people getting so upset, specifically white people getting so upset because they think something is being taken from them, and nothing is ever. And it's not, right? Or they're talking about like reverse racism, which is like doesn't exist, you know, because race is about power dynamics, and so, right, the only thing that anyone who might be gay or lesbian or queer, I think, and right, like I guess I hope I'm like saying this correctly, like this is stuff I'm still figuring it out, and so I'm trying to put this delicately, but like they're asking to be seen as a person before they are defined by like their physical appearance, right? Because, right, what she's saying in the book, right, she doesn't want to be defined as a woman because people are making assumptions about who you are because you're a woman. So you must be, I don't know, right? And a lot of the negative stereotypes, right? I don't know, like hysterical, or, you know, maybe like not very smart, or, you know, you're good at like a certain type of job or something, right? All of these sort of negative stereotypes that like exist and are reinforced by our media, right? She's hyper aware of all that, and she doesn't want any of that applied to her. And so she's saying she is afraid of being a person, but she's afraid of being, or she's not afraid of being a woman, but she's afraid of only being a woman, and that is all other people are going to see of her, right? And that's the same, I think, again, I don't mean to be like offensive or ignorant in saying this, right? That's all anyone is asking for, is when you look at them, you are not seeing them for just what that physical appearance is, and that you can see like a whole person behind there before, and you let them sort of define who they want to be, right? The thing about like asking someone what their pronouns are, right? If it's the appropriate setting, right? Because sometimes it's not the appropriate setting to do that, right? Or you know, talking to someone about their race or their skin color, if it's the appropriate setting, if they're willing to share with you, right? Like letting them define and tell them who they are to you, right? What is their identity before you're making assumptions and telling them what it is. Because as soon as you're telling someone else what their identity is, like you're reducing and diminishing them, and that is like that is a violent act against someone, because you're not letting them not letting someone define who they are, right? You're not letting them like own or, be fully human, right? Humans, we have identity. You're not letting them be fully human. You're denying that when you're defining who they are. And she, I don't know, like, I'm sure I've read it like put as eloquently, but just sort of put with the pictures and anything that really stuck out to me. And, this book is called My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, but she never uses the word queer, but, and I think, I know I read it the first time and that stuff mostly went over my head, but like, I think this book is like low key, but maybe like really high key, kind of just like subversive, right? Because it's never like talking about like being gay or being queer or everything, because that just like pervades every inch of this book, right? So I was reading this article the other day about this person was kind of doing a media critique. Have you ever seen the show Married at First Sight? Do you know what that show is?
No, but that sounds awesome.
It's
my trashy reality TV heart is like swooning.
So that was kind of their thing, right? It was kind of like, if you kind of accept this for what it is and don't think real hard about it, like, it's great, but it's like also some first class trash, right? They actually start their critique with like, I put this into the category of like, are the straights okay television, which is very funny. But there's a sentence in here, right? They're quoting Michael Warner, who is a professor at Yale University, and he works in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender studies department. And their quote in this article is that he defines queerness as whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant, right? And this whole book is about figuring out how to live, right? Going back to the thing we were talking about with her parents, right? How to live in a way that is not defined by what other people want from you, right? Or what is not the norm, right? Her whole thing is like, this person, she tries so hard to hold like a 9-to-5 job. She tries so hard, and maybe we'll get to this in a second, right? Because another thing I love in this book is how she says, there's a difference between laziness and like not being able to get out of bed because it hurts too much. Those are not the same thing, right? I'll come back to that in a second. But throughout this whole book, right, she's trying to figure out, how do I define myself? How do I live on my terms? How do I express my gender? How do I express my sexuality? What do I want that to be? What is the thing that makes me happy? And how do I go through that? Or what do I need to, like, I don't know, right? The whole, I read this and I was reading this and I was like, it kind of just like was a moment of synthesis. It's like, this whole book is about like, this book doesn't need to come out and say, oh, this is like, this is about like being gay or being lesbian or being queer or anything, right? Because it's just pervasive. It's just it's how this person's living, and which is why I say I think that, not like, I guess maybe it's not subversive, but just like, it's just pervasive, right? That message is pervasive in it, right? And in a way that I think maybe if you're not looking at it like when I read it the first time, right, I think it went past me. But when you really sit and think about what is happening, I think it's like really, really something special in that sense. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add, Ange? I just went on a little bit of a rant. I went off on
a really long
anything
rant.
to add about that, or I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that?
Nah, that went over my head when I was reading it.
Oh, okay. Well, were there any like, I guess I don't want to like push you too much. Were there any panels? Were there any lines that like stood out to you where you thought, oh, that's just, she put something very well right there? I don't know. Any of those?
Nothing that's jumping off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. That's fair. So like, okay.
Maybe I should have taken notes.
No, absolutely not. Right. Because I think it jumps out or it doesn't, right? I don't think that has to do with the note taking. It's there or it's not. So I guess the other thing is that I want to call attention to is that moment, like I was saying before, right? She talks and I don't think I need to read this one, but she talks about the difference between people, right? When she's going through this depression, right? Because she has times when she can like get a job and she can kind of maintain it. It's very difficult for her. And then she has times when she just can't, right? And how people don't understand that difference between not being able to get out of bed and what they see as lazy. And, you know, I think, I don't know, maybe this is a little something, right? Like, so you're younger than me, right? You're about 6-7 years younger than me. So are you technically a millennial? Are you is it Gen Z? Are you technically the next
I'm not
generation?
a millennial.
You're not, okay. So something
I don't have skinny jeans.
You don't have skinny jeans?
Do you understand that reference? You Facebook list, social media list monster.
Darian said something to me the other day about how skinny jeans aren't in fashion anymore. Is that what it, I don't know. Is that, are skinny jeans
Basically,
out?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's replacing skinny? Is it like baggy? Is it just like fitted jeans? Like, what replaces it?
Baggy, like mom jeans or like straight leg. I don't know. I actually personally don't understand. Also, it just reminded me of how unoriginal I am, because I was like, over the summer, I was like, you know what, screw skinny jeans, no thank you, I'm gonna start wearing like not skinny jeans. And I thought I was being like super like out of the box, and then I realized that I wasn't, and I was just like, oh.
You were gonna start wearing what?
Like, I don't know, like not skinny jeans, because they're not comfortable.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I was like, yeah. So like I bought a bunch of like different pants, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. Okay. I'm different. And then I realized that no, it was already no. Same with the middle part. It's fine.
Middle parts are out? No,
middle parts are in, side parts are out. It's not important to you because you're a guy.
But I have long hair, so I could rock a middle part or a side part. It's different? Okay. All right.
It's different.
All right. That's interesting. I have 2 pairs of jeans. One of them I got to get rid of because I put on some quarantine weight. So my actual pair of skinny jeans don't fit anymore, but maybe that's for the best.
Same though. That's kind of the big reason why I was like, yeah, who needs skinny jeans? Maybe that's why it started. Maybe everybody was collectively right? Just like, yeah, I think that's it.
That makes sense. I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so so you're Gen Z, I'm millennial, and like I know we get this from one side of our family. I know, we get it from our dad's side of the family, who, I don't know if you've been there for those discussions, Anns, but about millennial culture. I remember I got real mad one time when they were having this discussion. I remember that too. Okay. And, right, I think and again, I know this is tired. We're not here to talk about how like millennials aren't actually lazy. It is something that chafes me a little bit. But I think just sort of, just kind of in the last 6 or so months, just being more on Twitter and sort of seeing how, seeing people talk about this thing a lot more, right? About how, and sort of having the, like this job, which is, had like full-time job before, but this is more like, this job has like a 401k and like health insurance, right? Like it's more like official or whatever. And understanding, right, that like it's really tough to get out of bed some days, right? And that doesn't mean I'm lazy. That doesn't mean anyone who feels that way is like lazy, right? And again, like this person, the person in this book is like really, she is dealing with like depression, and she's dealing with content warning. She is dealing with thoughts about suicide and death. And right, like maybe it would be better if she was dead, but that her struggle to get out of bed says nothing about her character, who she is as a person, what she wants in life. It is a thing that she deals with, right? And it's so easy to just say, oh, you're lazy or you're unmotivated or whatever, without really stopping and asking someone like, how do you feel, right? And so being on Twitter and just seeing like people explain, right? In certain circles or Twitter threads or responding to other people, right? Like explaining some of those feelings and just being able to like understand, right, as someone who's like in that millennium and someone who's like felt that generalization, like, no, like you can, older person, you can make that, but you don't really understand anything that any one of these people are going through. So I don't know, like, but again, like, I don't know, have you ever felt that? Like, I don't know if Gen Zers really get called like lazy. I know Dad gets on you for like, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you get more like being on your phone too much, but I don't know. Did you pick up on any of that with that scene or like anywhere else in the book at all?
No.
Is that a no, Ange?
I said no.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Maybe it's in the recording and I'll sound like a dumbass because they heard you say no, but I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, they heard me.
I don't know. Do you think, I don't know, do you feel any sort of like, I don't know, being a young, do you feel any sort of like generalizations made by like about your like age group of people? Maybe it's not that. Are there any other ones that you feel like people make about young people your age or around your age?
I don't know. We drink a lot of coffee. I can't think of anything like bad, just like stupid.
Like what?
Like, I guess like it's popular now, I guess, to kind of dress like not like weird, but like I don't know. You should just get a TikTok and then you would understand.
But my because, TikTok like, and your TikTok would be very different.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like there's some TikToks, I guess. Maybe this is a Gen Z thing. I can only make a reference if I use social media.
Well, no, I mean, I see Darianne's TikTok, so I know kind of what's going on. Like,
there's been some TikToks where it's like millennials will be like, I was wearing mom jeans first. I was wearing a side part first. I liked the Beatles first. And like, a lot of the Gen Z people are just like, who are you?
Damn, that's wild.
Which I think is funny.
They're really...
Or so it's like people... Sometimes, like, I think some Gen Zers think that millennials are kind of turning into boomers. Like,
boomers,
boomer mentality of just being like, these young kids. And it's like, you were literally... What?
Yeah. I feel that. There's a couple of podcasts I listen to that have a sort of... a kind of a wide range of ages on them. And I definitely... I get that feeling. Which is wild, right? Because like, I don't know, it was like so common, like bash millennials, and now for like old, like Gen X, it's like, what is it, boomers, Gen X? I don't know, it was like easy to make fun of millennials, and now like they're like doing the shit that like gets them made fun of, right? They're like making it easy for other people, for the younger generation to now make fun of them. It's wild, man. It's very wild. All right. I think those are kind of the big things I wanted to say. Let's talk a little bit about the art and then we'll wrap up. Was there any like, I don't know, any moments, any panels that really stood out to you that you were like, I don't know, kind of like how I said, were there any moments where you felt like what the words and the art were kind of really working together? Anything you want to mention?
The parts, I guess that's a lot where like, I just think that how she drew like the facial expressions were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's like, I'm just like kind of looking back on it.
Yeah. Can we talk about this for a sec? Like, so you read it on a Kindle, right?
Yeah.
So I read it as the book, right? And so everything reads, instead of left to right, it reads right to left. How does it read on the Kindle?
The same.
So you read it right to left?
Right to left, yes.
So opposite of a normal book. I had to
do the finger thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, so it started, like, you know how they have the progress bar at the bottom?
Yeah.
It started at the right and it went to the left.
Okay. Good. Cool. I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't know if that's one of those things that matters, but it really, for me at least, it always kind of reminds.
Whitewash this?
Well, no, I think it would be in a sense, right? Because it's like, this is something that was translated. I think the translation is like they did a really good job, but like this is something that was created by a Japanese woman. It was, she's talking about her experience living in Japan. It was originally in Japanese language, like, and this is the format of books of manga that is made in Japan. Like, don't strip that from it. I think that would be whitewashing in a sense, and so I'm really glad they didn't. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask about that. But you were talking about like the facial expressions and how they did. You thought they did a good job with that. Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of like anime, but something I like about it, just like that kind of style of like the expressions,
Mm-hmm. You always, like, there's not like a ton of like lines or detail, right? But you always know what the character is like feeling and thinking, kind of. Is that what you're getting at, or something else?
Yeah, but it's also like, it's not in like it wasn't in like a I don't know how to say it. Not, I don't want to say that it wasn't like in a serious way, you know, because like it was serious, but like it wasn't in a way that's like I'm gonna look at this girl and see all of her sadness on her face, and I'm just going to be sad. You know, it wasn't like that. It was like it got the point across, but I don't know. It doesn't like ruin my day to look at it. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a certain sort of cartoonishness to it in a sense, right? Because like when she gets really nervous, right, it looks like her face is melting, right? It's not like she's not like sweating, she's like literally melting, right? So there, like the art has a little bit of like hyperbole to it, maybe, right? Or some of the sound effects, right, have like a little bit of hyperbole where it doesn't undercut the seriousness, but it doesn't sort of smack you in the face too much. Is that kind of it, or?
No, yeah, that's it.
Okay. So I think it was 2 weeks ago for your one shot, you talked about the webtoon True Beauty. Was it called True Beauty?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do you read any other webtoons, or?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering, like, can you compare this to sort of other webtoons, or you said you don't really read manga, but I was wondering if you had any sort of comparison points for it, but okay. Because that one's a little bit more like realistic, right? It's like full color. It's a little bit more realistic with the way those characters are drawn when we looked at it. Is that right?
So at some points, there's some points where it's like more caricature-ish, or like, you know.
Okay.
But like I think it's just like a whole different style.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one is definitely unique. And did you ever find yourself like wishing it was in full color, or do you think do you like what, like, right, they pick like white, gray, black, pink, right? Did you ever find yourself where that color scheme wasn't working for you? Do you think that works pretty well with the book?
I think it was fine. Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right? I didn't think about it too much. There's a couple panels, right, where like you don't really actually notice too much, and then like it only happens a couple times, but like it'll be there's a couple close up of like the main character's face, right, and then like the whole panel behind her is like black, and it's sort of the most, even though it's not really a color, it's the most like color that is on the page, right? And it's like, oh, right, and yeah, I think they do a pretty good job like emphasizing or like drawing your attention around the page, right? Because most of the page is actually white most of the time, right? And then the pink or the black or the gray is sort of used to highlight something, used to like shadows to show shading or light being directed or emotion. And I think it sort of draws your attention around the page really, really well with where they choose to put the color, and sort of, you know, is it sort of an intense panel of black, or is it sort of some light shading with pink and gray or whatever? I think they do that really well. All right, Ange, anything else, or you want to go to the next part of the show?
Next part.
All right, we will.
Did I sound too excited?
You cut out a little bit. I'm assuming it's on the recording, but you cut out a little bit. You did sound excited. I only really caught the part. I didn't catch I assume you said next part, but I didn't really catch the next.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll be back after We'll be back after this short break, everyone.
I'll start. So, no offense to the author of what we talked about, but this was a real downer for me.
Yeah.
So, I finished this Friday night, and so I was like, man, I want something to like watch that's like community or like bantery, and so I watched the Mindy Project. I started on Saturday around 3 p.m. and I'm on season 4 right now.
To let you know, like, are there
6?
There are. Okay. I definitely. I think I maybe saw the first 2. When did her and Danny get together?
I don't know. It all kind of blended together.
Okay. All right.
To be honest.
So you wait. You said you started Friday night or Saturday night?
Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
Because I woke up around like 2, so I watched it around let's see, we got Indian food around like 3. I watched it around 4.
Oh, you got afternoon Indian food.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like it. The lunch, like a lunch buffet or just order out?
No, we got it delivered because we're lazy. We were going to go out, but then we're lazy.
Okay.
And also, I'm not sure if, I don't know if I'm really going to be running to a buffet right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Damn. Indian phase might be ruined forever.
That's so sad.
That's very sad.
Because, like, how am I honestly, Indian buffets are, like, I think one of the greatest inventions because you can, like, try anything, you know? Because, like, especially with, like, food that people aren't familiar with, and then you can just, like, try anything, and there's, like, no risk because it's just, like, $9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right, nice. Okay, so you got the Indian food, you put the Mindy Project on, and you just went for it.
Just went for it, yeah.
Okay. Nice. Why that show?
Because I wanted something funny, and I was like, Mindy from The Office was funny. Mm-hmm. And I read her book, Is Everybody Hanging Out Without Me? It's pretty funny. Let's see what this is about. I relate to Mindy. I, too, am also a little dumb, and maybe make too many pop culture references.
Okay. That show's fun. That's a good show, right? That's got a bunch of funny people. It's got, I forget the guy who plays Morgan's name, but he's funny.
Oh, yeah. Ike Barinholtz.
Ike Barinholtz. I think Adam Paley plays the, not the English doctor. Pardon?
Peter Prentice. I'm looking at, there's like a chart on Wikipedia with all the main characters.
Okay.
Does Danny like leave at season 5? Because what I'm looking at, his like little bar of like season suddenly goes down.
Oh, he might, right?
Well, shoot.
Because I think it like, I don't remember. I think that show started on NBC maybe, and then the last couple seasons were on Hulu. So he might have left when it switched, like, because I think it got canceled, and then I think Hulu picked it up. Does Wikipedia say anything about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe he left when that switched, like when it got canceled, and then when Hulu like was like, no, we'll bring it back. Maybe he never came back. I'm not sure.
Like it says he's a guest, and then he's a reoccurring. So I guess that means they're probably gonna break up, huh? Well, spoiled that for me.
No, yeah.
Cool.
Ike Barinholtz, Adam Paley. Who plays Danny? What's that guy's name? What's his name?
Danny Chris Messina.
Yeah. He's usually in like sort of mob or like gangster movies. I've seen him in a couple of those.
The thing is, all of these guys kind of just look the same to me. They're all different variations of like a scruffy white dude who like isn't cute but like isn't ugly.
Yeah.
But more so just isn't cute. Like just somebody that you would just like see and just be like, I don't care about his life at all. Yeah,
absolutely. I feel you. But they
also weird. I thought it was a weird character choice because like first season, Jeremy Reed, the British dude, was like, it was weird that they made him the boss. I guess. Like, how would he suddenly be the responsible one? Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. It's fine, but I thought, because, like, in the first season, they were very much more, like, bantery. All three of them, Mindy, Danny, and Jeremy. But then, like, after that old doctor retired, then, like, Jeremy's, like, the new boss. And it's like, well, you're not funny anymore. You just, like, steal people's girlfriends. So, yeah. How far did you watch?
I think I made it, like, season 2 or 3. I don't know. I now that I'm thinking, I might have tuned out after Mindy and Danny got together because I didn't really like that. Because they don't like hate each other, but they're like very antagonistic. And I was like, I don't know if it would be like, because it's very much at the beginning, right? They're kind of embarrassed. He's kind of embarrassed. I don't know if she is, but he's kind of like embarrassed right at the beginning when they start going out. And I was like, I don't know. I should probably rewatch it. I don't know. When I watched it, and that was a while ago, I didn't love the dynamic there, but
gotcha.
I think that's kind of when I don't remember what season that is. Is that like 2 or 3 when they get together?
I think it's like 3.
It's like 3. Okay. So you've already gotten to that point.
They're already together. I guess I assume that they're going to break up eventually because there's 6 seasons and there's no way they're going to last 6 seasons, but
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, but that's a solid show. That's nice. All right, so you're gonna finish
All
it?
right, what about you?
Okay.
Yes, I will.
You win it. All right, nice. My one shot for this week is I won't take too long because I really don't think you're gonna care. It is Drive to Survive season 3, which just came out on Netflix. Not this most recent Friday, but the Friday before. So it's been out like as we're recording, it's been out a little over a week. But it's about the 2020. It's sort of the behind the scenes drama of the 2020 Formula One season, which is a race car driving competition that happens mostly in Europe. There's one race in Texas every year, or usually every year. There wasn't last year, but it's right. Like we have NASCAR in Europe, and the rest of the world have F1. Because the competition goes all over the world. It goes to like Russia, it goes to Japan, Singapore, Bahrain, Britain, Australia. It might go to Brazil. I don't know if they go to South America. They go to one race in North America. There might be a race in Canada.
Wait.
I think there might be a race in Brazil. But anyways, it's like I don't.
Hang on. I did zone out while you were talking. What kind of race is this?
It's race car driving, but it's not like NASCAR.
Really?
They drive cooler looking cars.
Like what, Honda Civics?
No, it's like an open cockpit. I don't know. I don't care about race car driving. It means there's no doors. Like they climb into it and then they climb out of it, right? And there's nothing over their head.
Oh.
So they're like kind of exposed, but every episode kind of ends with like a race, or there's like a race in the middle and then there's also a race at the end. But like there's like, it goes through like what's the drama of that week, and like what's the drama happening on like the practice day, and then what's the drama happening on like the qualifying day, right? And it's interesting, right? Because I listened to a podcast where they talked about this, and that's what got me to watch the first season. One of the things they talked about is like they were trying to figure out why like every single driver is basically also like a male supermodel. Like every single driver is like incredibly attractive, and they were sort of wondering like, do the companies like is part of the right when the companies are picking a driver, like is the attractiveness, right? Because it's interesting, right? In like the driver is sort of the product, right? Like all these people, more than the car even, is the product, right? Like all these people are working to like put together this really awesome, really fast race car so that like the driver can get a lot of like glory and recognition for when they win or when they do a really good job, right? So it's kind of like the driver is the end product, right? So like our company's thinking like, well, then if that's the person that's going to like represent us, like we want them to be like extremely attractive, right? And there's only 20 drivers, right? There's only 20 people who do Formula One in the whole world, right? So they like can be kind of picky because it's not like right? There's not like 1,000 people, right? Where like attractiveness levels will vary, right? And they're all like pretty generically attractive. They're mostly white. There's like one. There's a driver who has Thai heritage, and they talked a little bit about that last year. There's Lewis Hamilton, who's the best driver. He's won the last 6 championships, and he's the only black driver. And they gave him the opportunity to talk a little bit about that at the end, which I'll say in a second. But like, I don't know. So like, and they all have like very big egos, right? They all think like very highly of themselves. A lot of them are like super rich. You like see they go to their houses, and like their families are super rich because you kind of, in a lot of, not always, but in a lot of cases, you have to kind of have some money to get into driving as a young person, because you have to start when you're really young with this stuff. So it's interesting. This season was good. I didn't think it was as good as the other two. One thing that kind of disappointed me is there was this really horrific crash where like a car basically like blew up, and the guy who was in it survived. And he got some burns on his hands and his feet, and like he's okay. Like no burns on his body, no burns on his face. He's like fine. But there was like at the end of every episode, they kept like showing this, and I knew this crash was happening because I heard about it last year when the season was going on. But they kind of kept showing it at the end of every episode, like stick around because like this big crash is coming up. And I was like, it just kind of felt weird that they were like selling future, like enticing people to watch future episodes with this like very horrific, scary incident. That felt kind of weird. And then one thing that was like very ongoing and very present during the last season was how F1 responded to the police, the murder of George Floyd by the police in Minnesota, and the murder of Breonna Taylor, and the murder of Jacob Blake and other Black and people of color, like that happened in the past and last summer specifically, right? How F1 responded, because most of the drivers are white, but the best driver, the driver who has won the last 6 championships, is Black. And he's like very outspokenly like Black, right? He's very proud of it, and he talks about it, and he's very aware of it, and aware of his platform, right, as the best driver on the best team. And so something, right, at a lot of the races, or before a lot of the races, they took a knee for a minute before the races in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. And then there was a controversy where some of the drivers, some of the white drivers, like, I don't want to do this because this isn't the way that I want to express my politics. And on race day, I want to keep the focus on the racing, right? So there was actually this pushback by some drivers who were like, I don't want to do this. And other drivers were like, no, I actually think this is really important, that we should do this. And that was something that was going on throughout the whole season. And again, like, I didn't keep up with it super closely, but like I would read it about the day after, and so I know that this is something that was ongoing. But in the Netflix show, the only time they talked about this was during the last 5 minutes of the final episode. Like, you would not have known this was a thing if you did not stay to the last 5 minutes of the last episode. And I just think that kind of, it's
not a good look.
Nice. Yeah, no, yeah, right. It's like nice. It's like, you know, we'll let you do this, but we're going to put it at the very end, right? You can have the last 5 minutes. Like, that is what you get, right? And it's like, I don't know. It was like, this sucks, right? Because this was something that was going on throughout the whole season. Whatever. I know you're making an entertainment product, but if you're actually trying to represent what was going on in Formula One last year, this is something that was going on. This isn't something that should have been relegated to the last 5 minutes. They could have been honest and represented that this was something that was going on in Formula One last year. This is something that the best driver in the sport was talking about on a weekly basis. And it just felt kind of, I guess I thought it was shitty to put it at the end like that. I don't know. I didn't follow Formula One like super closely, but I know this was something that was that was going on. It was a conversation in the teams and among the drivers and among the fans last season. So they didn't fully represent that, I don't think. But anyways, yeah, that's Drive to Survive F1 Season 3 on Netflix if you're into that. But let's go to the end of the show where we do our little outro. And you can follow Angela on Instagram at glow.angela, spelled just like it sounds. You can also follow her at IJOONE_. How do you say that again, Ange? Or how should that be said?
June, like June.
And then underscore. All right. So you can follow, and that'll be linked in the show notes. You can also follow me on Twitter at Joey Glowacki. That's JoeyGlowacky. Please rate and review the episode on Apple Podcasts or on your preferred podcast listening app. You can also email the show by sending your messages to podcast@comixly.com. All reviews and messages are greatly appreciated. I've also started putting the episodes up on YouTube. I guess if you're listening to it on YouTube, you know that. If you have been listening on your podcast app, you can also find it on YouTube. Also, something I'll link in the show notes is I didn't mention this, when I first read this manga, when I read My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, I wrote something about it. So that's still up on my website, so I'll link that little thing I wrote in the show notes if you want to read that. But yeah, that's everything. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking about this. Again, Angela, thank you for reading this. Thank you for engaging with this and for being really honest about your feelings. I really appreciate that, even though it wasn't easy. I really thank you for that. Nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
No problem.
All right. Bye. What do we got next week? Oh, next week is good. And next week is an Angela. Angela's going to lead it next week, right? Yeah. We are watching the first 8 episodes of Itaewon Class. Episodes 1 through 8 of Itaewon Class, Season 1.
What episode are you
I'm
on,
still
by the
on
way?
episode 1. I didn't watch any last week. I know.
Okay, you have...
I will get there. If I watch like an episode a day, and then I'll have to watch a little bit extra, but I'll get there. But Season 1, Episodes 1 through 8 of Itaewon Class, if you want to watch along with us for next week. Have a great week, everyone. See ya.
Goodbye.